Welcome back to the Third String Chronicles podcast. This week, doing episode 2, and we're going to be doing a little bit of a playoff recap and a finals preview. Finals actually start tonight, so by the time this goes out, we'll probably be on game 2. But we're going to start with our playoff recap, led by none other than Noah.
What's up, guys, and welcome back. So, what we're going to be doing to start off is we're going to explore all of the playoff series and talk about what we liked and didn't like from each team. So, we're going to start off with one. Wasn't really nationally televised, I guess, but let's start with the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Orlando Magic, our 4 versus 5. Who wants to start?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely...
I know you. Yeah, you got it. I'm a Cavs fan, but you live in Orlando, so you got the first swipe at this one.
As an Orlando citizen, I have a lot of opinions on this series. Obviously, I'm a Spurs fan first, but I did tune into a couple of these games. I even did a watch party for some of them, and I have a lot of thoughts, specifically with what people already knew. The Magic are a terrible shooting team. They need to do something about that to address the offseason. I'm a big Markelle Fultz fan, but Markelle Fultz just doesn't fit with the team, especially because of that lack of shooting. If you look at their playoff series in the 7 games they played against Cleveland, they only had 3 players shooting above 30% from 3, and that was Gary Harris, who shot 31% from 3. Jonathan Isaac, he actually shot pretty well. I think he was around 37. And then Paolo Banchero, the player who wasn't supposed to be like a great shooter, came in and shot 40% on 6 attempts a game. Those were really your only bright spots. Franz shot sub 30. Jalen Suggs shot sub 30. It's just really problematic, especially, because Franz Wagner did have a good shooting year, but now he's regressed this season. Hopefully he can bring that back next year. But I think Orlando needs to take a look at their roster and really try to figure things out, because I like a lot of their pieces, but a lot of their pieces don't particularly fit what they need as a whole.
Yeah, I remember. I'm the Cavs fan here, so I was watching that series too. And what stood out to me was the lack of offensive anything outside of Paulo. I mean, Franz Wagner, he had one good game, I think, in the series. The rest of the time, he was just attempting a lot of jump shots that didn't really go in. I think I agree with you in that Markelle Fultz doesn't fit with the team, just because he has no offense outside of 19 feet. But if you want to replace him, or if you want to get rid of him, I think as management, you have to be really, really tuned into how well Cole Anthony's progressing, because you need him to take on that primary ball handling role once Paulo's off the floor. That's very important. The non-Paulo minutes were really, really disgusting for the Magic.
Yeah.
And so I think Cole Anthony's development this offseason is absolutely critical to the Magic's success going forward. On the other side of that series, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I guess this can also go in the second round, because much of the same issues we saw in the first round were present in the second round series against the Celtics. The biggest one is Darius Garland. He's a massive question mark going into the offseason. Splitting minutes with Donovan was probably when he was at his most effective, besides the second to last game against Boston, because it just gave him slightly more space to work. He didn't have the ball in his hands all the time, but he didn't have all the attention on him either. We saw in the final game, Game 5 against Boston, he put up a disastrous, I think it was a 4 of 17 shooting performance. These guys were laughing at me in the group chat. I think it was really bad, because everyone figured out, no Donovan Mitchell, the ball goes to Darius Garland and it doesn't come out of his hands. And they just swarmed him, trapped him right inside half court, all of these different ways to attack him defensively. Same thing in the Magic series. I mean, they put Jalen Suggs on him for a bit, and he was in hell, quite frankly. And I think going forwards, as the Cavs, the biggest question mark this offseason, can Darius Garland return to his all-star play that he played like in 2022? If he can't, you kind of have to explore moving on from him. We're paying him upwards of $40 million the next couple of years. It's a big contract, a lot of money. You have to justify it somehow.
Yeah,
Do you think the problem really is like with Garland, his off-court issues right now? Because you could ideally just give him a year, right? One season, if he kind of gets a little bit back to his old self, then maybe you're like, okay, wait, we do have to keep him, or are you just like, kind of done with the Donovan Mitchell and Garland fit. So
Well,
I
I know.
personally wasn't a fan of it,
Mhm.
when the trade happened. Like I told you, like I don't think this is gonna work. Like two short
Mhm.
guards, um, it hasn't worked. Like we saw it in Portland with Dame and CJ, and then eventually, one of them got traded, and then now Portland's in a rebuild. It's like
Mhm.
how do you
No,
think
you're
the
right.
Cavs are gonna go with it?
You're right. You're right. I think this is a front office. It's a very conservative front office. We've seen they typically don't take big swings. The only big swing, draft or trade in the past 4-ish years, 5 years, has been the Donovan Mitchell trade, and that in itself wasn't even a giant swing if you consider the fact that Colin Sexton was out all year. Larry Markkinen had questions with the fit because he was playing in a lineup of 3 7-footers, and so this is a front office that traditionally doesn't make a lot of big moves, doesn't take a lot of risks. I don't think they're not going to initially look to trade right now. I don't even think they should. I think this is good success for a team that, you know, 3, 4 years ago was in complete disaster mode, right? I think, I don't think you want to look at moving on immediately. I think what it is you see, first off, will you extend Donovan Mitchell this summer? All right, that's the first step. And then obviously Rich Paul has said that if he does extend, they're going to look for a new team for Garland. That's cool. If he extends, then you go there. But you don't make that decision now because in the off chance he doesn't extend, you need to have a backup. And Darius Garland is unfortunately the only backup we have. So I don't think it's a decision you make immediately, but it's certainly something to be keeping on the radar going forward. Let's move on. Let's move on to the Knicks Sixers series. Noah, you're the Sixers fan here. Why don't you get us started for that?
Yeah, so I was watching actively every single game this series. I liked a lot of the energy on both sides of the ball. It was a true series where we saw a lot of physicality on both sides. We hadn't really seen that out of the Sixers before. As I've been following them over the years, they've been lacking a lot of the elements of physicality, but we really saw Joel Embiid going at it when he wasn't really injuring the Knicks players. He was being more physical and stuff. Also, Tyrese Maxey stepped up big time. He had, I think, a couple bad performances in the beginning of the series, but near the end, like that game 5, he really stepped up and he played a big part in the Sixers' plans for the future over the course of the season. Looking at some of the role players, that seems to be the main issue for the Sixers. They didn't have a good supporting cast around Embiid and Maxey. They had Oubre and they had Tobias. I want to say both of them were averaging around 9 points per game over the series, which is not good out of your third and fourth options. You need players that can play well next to these two, as well as thrive when they might not be hitting their shots. Because there were games where Embiid was way off. So I just think they need to put a better cast around them, and that should be their biggest goal this offseason. Get a third option that can alleviate some of the scoring pressure, as well as add like a new dimension to this team.
Dude, I don't think the Sixers need a third option really, because I would rather focus on depth. Because I
Yeah.
mean, y'all had Campaign coming off the bench, and he, you know how like bad he kind of was. He did
My
have like
third
a
op-
couple of shots, but
Oh yeah.
like I would when I think of third option, I think like of a dead set guy, and I think that Maxi and Joel are like such gifted scorers that I don't think the Sixers would need a third option. You'd maybe have someone that's built like a fourth option, and every game you have a different guy being your third scoring guy. Um, I know like Sixers fans probably expected that to be Tobias Harris. However, like he did have his shooting woes throughout the season. He did fall off also after his Clippers days, and I think the decision to get Tobias over Jimmy is also hurting right now. But just
Definitely.
get
That's
defense and depth over solidified third option. I think that's better
Yeah, I
than just getting a third guy.
no, yeah, I agree. And before we move on to the next, I think it would be really good for Philadelphia to actually try and keep Kelly Oubre. You guys got him
Mhm.
on a really cheap contract, but he ended up playing way outside of his pay grade, and I don't think that's a coincidence. And I mean, some team is going to offer Kelly Oubre money, but if you guys don't worry about going and getting a Paul George or a Jimmy Butler, and you guys focus on depth, I think Kelly Oubre is actually really good for you guys, even though he might have struggled a little bit in the playoffs. I really liked how he played there in Philly, and I mean, if I'm Philly, I try to keep him without, overpaying.
By the way, just for a third option, I don't really want a Paul George or a dude that's going to cost $50 million. I just want someone that's going to alleviate the pressure. It doesn't need to be a
Klay
dead set
Thompson.
third guy.
That's not a bad guy.
No.
No,
but
I
just
genuinely think that's not a bad guy.
maybe if it's not too much money, I might not be opposed because the defense and the shooting are obviously there. But just looking, the games without Embiid, there were games where the Sixers would barely crack 80 points. So we just
Yeah.
need someone to score, especially because we know Embiid's going to miss time. So it's just, can they still play at a high enough level when he's out?
Right.
Reminder, Klay Thompson shot 0 of 10 in an elimination game. All right.
I already know Orlando's
Good
going
One
to give
game
him
doesn't
money.
define
I hope he
someone's
doesn't sign
career
here,
as
but
much as I like to troll him. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's still
Klay
good,
Thompson.
but
He's good.
I also don't think Golden State had a great system for him last year. I mean, relying on Steph only, really Steph was the only player with gravity. If you put him in a system like Philly, I mean, Tyrese Maxey has gravity, Joel Embiid has an insane amount of gravity. It'll make Klay's life easier. So I actually don't hate the fit there, but yeah, the recency bias, it's it's there.
How much would it cost to re-sign Buddy Hield? What do you think about that?
No more
I think
than
I
he's-
want
he'd be-
Buddy Hield in San Antonio,
Same
personally.
here.
I wouldn't
I would
love him
overpay
back,
for a short-term
just-
deal.
But right now, I would say Buddy Hield is probably like a mid-level exception, like maybe 12 to 13 million, just for any team that's going to offer him.
I think that's fair to say. He underperformed significantly last season, so I think that's fair to say. I just think it's interesting if you're talking about Klay and shooting. Buddy Hield's offers the same thing, and he's a lot cheaper than Klay Thompson. So
Definitely. Klay
something to keep
Thompson
an eye out.
will get,
And he
like,
also
30.
he already knows the system because he played half a season. So something to keep an eye on as well.
That's true.
New York. For
Honestly,
New York, what?
I like New York. I just think they need time and continuity. Maybe try to get another guy to put next to Jalen Brunson, like a 3-and-D guy. Like I was talking with Manas before we started recording. It's not going to happen, but if they could get somebody like Mikal Bridges, I think Mikal Bridges fits New York absolutely beautifully. And they were so killed by injuries in the playoffs. Like you had Bogdanovich go down, and then you had, Julius Randle was already out, and then Mitchell Robinson went down, and then they were out there playing like a 7-man rotation, not because of Tom Thibodeau, but because literally they had nobody else they could play. And I think you give them time, you make roster moves here and there. I like what they got.
Dude, yeah.
I
if I'm
don't think
New
they need to
York-
make moves, honestly. I don't think so.
Really?
Monas, go ahead.
Dude,
Only-
if I'm New York, I overpay for Mikal. Like,
Oh, come on.
give Randall
Yo,
and like 1 or 2 first, and just get
I don't think
Mikal Bridges.
I don't think the Nets are going to take that, though. I mean, the rumor
Yeah, I
is
mean-
that the Rockets are offering pick
Offering
3 and the Suns
Yep.
picks for Mikal, or pick 3 and the Nets picks back for Mikal and the Suns picks. And if they're not taking that, I don't think they're going to want Randall. Randall right now
I'd
has
rather
a
take
negative
Randall
trade
and
value.
some picks. I don't think so. He was pretty good last season.
Who? Julius
But
Randle?
look at the money that he's
Randall.
making.
Oh, no, yeah, wasn't
24
he-
and 24, 9 and 5. That's really good. And I don't think his contract's horrible either.
I thought it was like 40 million, but I could be wrong.
The Knicks also have to think about keeping Hartenstein, because isn't Hartenstein a free agent this year too?
Hartenstein's a free agent. He's going to make more than they can offer. He's going to demand at least.
No, I think
18, 19
he's
a
going to
year.
make a lot of money, but I think Hartenstein probably wants to stay in New York.
Yeah. He's a good
Well, the
culture
market
guy.
for a good big is a
15
lot of teams
million.
are going to be wanting a good big right now.
You also
I
look
think-
at Brooklyn. Nicholas Claxton's a free agent too. Like, Nicholas Claxton's going
Yeah.
to get money.
That's
and
true.
they
Yeah,
can't even
that's
tank
true.
because they don't have their picks either.
Mhm.
So you can't even, unload everything and just, be bad, try to get a top pick. And by the way, Randall's making sub 30 mil for the next 2 years.
Really,
Never mind then. I
Yeah.
thought it was like
that's not
37.
bad.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
24,
not bad at
9
all.
and 5. Like for someone making sub 30 mil, that's really good. Like the
Yeah, that's
contract's
pretty
Front
solid.
office
worth
has
it.
actually been spectacular. I mean, that Jalen Brunson,
Mhm.
24 million a year, if Randall really makes under 30, that's great. I think it really just allows them to overpay for OG Anunoby if that's what it takes to
Yeah.
keep him in New York.
No, I was going to say earlier, I don't think they need to go after Mikhail. You get a guy like OG Anunoby on the roster already who does 75-80% of what Mikhail does. He doesn't have the same ball handling prowess, right? But you don't need him to. You really don't. You don't even want him to, in essence. You want him to be the defensive stopper and every now and then hit an open three, right? And I think you overpay to keep OG Anunoby, right? You do your best to keep Hartenstein. If you can't keep Hartenstein, you make sure Mitchell Robinson's healthy, and then you have Precious coming off the third string into the bench, right? The bench rotation. I think ideally for them, their rotation next year looks very much like their ideal healthy rotation this year. See what you can do. Is Bogdanovich still on contract next year? He
Yes.
is, right?
Okay, I think
One
so.
more year.
I don't know.
pretty
He's making like $20 million a year. He got that extension in Detroit, so it's not terrible value. But you see if you can integrate him into the system because he didn't play that much. If you can't, you can't. That's cool. But you already have like the playoffs this year. The two series they played in showed you guys who their main rotation players are. You know, you start off with Jalen, you have Dante, you have Hart, you have who can switch spot, it's starting or not depending on what the matchup is. You have OG Anunoby, you have Julius Randle, and you have Hartenstein, right? It's a very solid competing starting five. And then off the bench, Deuce McBride, the other of Hart or Dante. And then you have hopefully Bogdanovich if he's healthy, and then Precious Achua, and then Mitchell Robinson. It's a great rotation, a very deep, solid rotation. I don't think they need to overpay for a guy like Mikhail. I think you overpay to keep your guy in OG, and then you try and get everybody else on the same page health-wise, so that next year you don't have to run a six-man rotation in the second round of the playoffs, because that's not going to win you a game. But other than that, I don't think they need to really do much in terms of going out and making a splash this year in the offseason.
Well, the reason I say this is that they need a second option. Sure, Randall wasn't, there in the playoffs, but Randall has never, been a good playoff performer either way. Like, he hurt his team more than, he helped his team in the past couple playoffs. So that probably gets you thinking, like, do you want a better second option? And, the guys have chemistry with Mikhail already, which is why I'd say this. And Mikhail has proven that he can be a 20, 25 point per game scorer, when teams primarily don't exactly game plan for him. And I don't think he will be game planned for as much playing alongside Jalen Brunson because, anytime a team's playing the Knicks, their focus will be on Brunson, not Bridges. That's going to just create more open looks for Bridges itself.
I love this. No, I love I understand what you're saying. I think it's that we should move on. We have a lot of thoughts on the Sixers and Knicks just overall, but we got to keep it moving, move to some other series. Yeah.
I was going to say, low-key, this is really good for like off-season recaps that we want to do later. But yeah, we should try to not speed through the next rounds, but keep it a little more brief.
We'll just do like an extensive look at each team now. And then talk about like minor changes that have appeared in each series. So with that being said, we'll look at the Western Conference Finals team, the Mavericks, when they in the series where they beat the Clippers.
No notes.
No notes.
Yeah. I have no notes for Dallas. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
There's
Keep your
nothing really
guys.
bad to say about them.
Right.
I think they're in a perfect spot.
Well,
You got your one, you got your two.
mm-hmm.
And then you have a nice rotation, like alongside supporting cast.
On the flip side, the Clippers have a lot of questions going into the offseason. I mean,
George.
Honestly, this is a hot take. I don't know. If I'm Los Angeles, I blow it up. They're not going to win. They're not going to win a
I don't
ring.
like that. I don't like that.
Oklahoma has all your picks. You can't do
Paul
that.
George for just
You
the
think you
picks.
can't get a haul for Kawhi Leonard?
Not your own picks. There's no point in tanking if you don't get your own picks back.
But what is the
Right?
point of staying in NBA mediocrity? Like, at least start working towards something. The only reason to keep Kawhi and Paul George and James Harden is because they bring in money.
Name.
Which I guess that could be enough of a reason if you're the Clippers owners. But if you're a fan and you want the best for your team, I can't put myself in the shoes of a Clippers fan, bro. It's disappointment every single season.
Steve Ballmer wants to win. I'll tell you that. And in my
not
opinion,
gonna happen.
you're not going to like this. the way to win is to get rid of Ivica Zubac. That's the first step. That's the first step. That's the first step. You have to open up your rotation in the front court to play a dynamic style of like movement based basketball that helps out your wing scorers. Zubac is the complete opposite of that. He is a rock that stands still and sets screens sometimes, and then gets the boards and puts up rebounds. Sometimes hits a little post like hook shot. You
He's a
can't do
league
much
average
with that.
center. I mean,
Right, but that's
they don't really have the money to go out and spend on an
You don't
above
need
average
to go out
center.
and spend. I'm saying you need to find a way to improve along the margins, and to do that is to get rid of him. People are saying, "Oh, we need to bring in a point guard. We need to bring in replacements for these guys, the starting stars." No, you don't. You need to improve along the one guy who has been the constant in this cycle of we can't play good basketball in the playoffs, and that is Zubac, who has anchored them down from having an actual flowing half court offense in the playoffs each of the past 4 seasons.
I
I
get
think you're
that,
onto
but
something.
also if you look at that series with Dallas, Zubac was actually like pretty good in that series. Dallas was trying to play him off the floor, and half the time they couldn't because he was just doing that good of a job. He is one dimensional, like I agree with that, but like the for me that's not the problem. It's the fact that you're trying to win around Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, which granted Paul George had a healthy season, so that's really good for him. But Kawhi Leonard cannot stay healthy, and not even like hating as a Spurs fan, like the man just can't. You saw him play for 2 games, and he looked bad because he was trying to force himself to play. And how the same song and dance ever since the bubble. The bubble was the last time they played healthy basketball, and they lost and blew a 3-1 lead. Even worse, like for me, you just can't win with that group anymore. James
Okay.
Harden's a free agent. Who knows if he's going to stay? Russell Westbrook's also a free agent. Who knows if he's going to stay? Like,
Harden will stay.
I don't know. I feel like Zubac isn't the problem. I think it's just you can't win with that group of guys. I think that
All right,
window's over.
let's talk more about getting rid of Zubac. That's a hot take from my part. Mana said he kind of liked it.
I
If
like
you guys
it,
are watching this, look out for an episode in the next 3-4 weeks. I will expand my views on that one. I have so
I
much to
will hate
say
on
about the
them.
kind of offense they
I
play.
actually do too about
Yeah,
about
we're going
Zubac.
to talk more about the Clippers in a few episodes for sure. I think recapping the Clippers Mavs series, the biggest point for me is you had a healthy Kawhi Leonard for a couple games. You had a healthy Paul George for the whole series, and they failed to capitalize, which I guess I understand. I guess is the point Lucas is talking about. And going to the offseason, that's one of the biggest questions on a team riddled with questions. So
right.
moving on, let's go to who else is in the Western Conference that we should talk about now.
LeBron.
LeBron.
LeBron James.
LeBron. Oh my
The
god.
Nuggets versus
Honestly,
Lakers
if I'm-
series. Yeah.
If I'm the Lakers, I think they just need veteran role players, like, because LeBron and AD did their job. Well, I mean, Anthony Davis had like really good halves, and then he wouldn't play very well in the second half.
Yeah.
But LeBron and AD did what they had to do, and then D'Angelo Russell had like 2 good games. But then none of the I think it was a stat like their bench players had like 0 points across like the first 2 or 3 games of that series. You can't win that way. And you're playing like Cam Reddish, Torian Prince, who I think was one of the only people that actually scored off the bench.
I think it was
And, like-
Torian Prince was the only person to score off the bench for the entire the first half of that series.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
then you had
pathetic
like
'cause he's bad.
Vanderbilt.
They
and
had a
Gabe
game. I think they
Vincent.
scored like 117 points, and the starters had 115 or something
No,
along
yeah,
those
it's
I
lines.
saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
So, I mean, you look at that bubble Lakers team. Obviously, LeBron was younger and AD was healthy, but like they had good role players, and you need to find that because I think that's been the problem with the Lakers, outside of like injuries. Like they just haven't had good role players. Like you don't have a consistent guy that can just come in and do his job. It's always inconsistency from AD or from your role players, and then when AD plays well, the role players don't play well, and you can't win that way.
A couple names that I have off the top of my head. I remember in the last offseason, when they got Reddish. Obviously Vanderbilt was still there, and Jackson Hayes came in as well. Gabe Vincent came in from the Miami series, right? Everyone was like, look at this. They're getting good young guys. They're building up their future. We're
Yeah.
barely
Overstatement.
5-6 months removed from that, and like 8 months removed from that, and it's already fallen apart. I think you're right, Lucas. I think in the situation they have right now with as few picks as they have, they might as well buy-in on the vets now. I think a couple good names, just really quickly, would be Kelly Oubre. He played well. He's gonna get some money. Derek Jones from Dallas. He's gonna want
That's
to
a name I
resign in
love.
Dallas.
He's gonna want to
But-
resign. Yeah.
But if you can somehow convince him to walk from Dallas over to Los Angeles, he'd be a great addition. There's a lot of good wings that you can add along the sidelines. I mean, Jared Vanderbilt was unplayable because of his offense. Torian Prince was kind of unplayable because he's Torian Prince. There's a lot of places they need to improve, and the wing is one of those. And this offseason gives them a lot of veteran opportunities to do so.
No,
Let's
yeah,
see what
I'd like
the
to see them
coaching
go get
change
like
does.
Oh,
that
that's
yeah,
was
it's
right.
a good
That was
Danny
right.
Hurley.
Yeah.
Maybe Hurley. I mean, that's the name that came up today. I think that would be a
JJ
very good hire
Redick.
for them. Yes.
I
But
think
we could-
Hurley should stay in college ball, man. I mean, most of the coaches that make the switch don't find success, even from good programs. Like, what was the guy, the old dude from Michigan, John Beelan or something, came to the Cavs
Yeah.
1 year, called the Cavs thugs, and then got fired. So you can't really do that, man. And
Danny's
I
Hurley's
think it's just a
different guy,
different
though.
game.
I mean, different
Yeah,
game,
I
but
know.
sure.
He
Danny
runs a
Hurley's
great
like
program.
he's a player's coach. Like all the players love him.
I understand what you're saying, but I just think, if you're finding success, don't fix what's not broken, and he should stay in college ball.
For Denver, do we all agree that it's just like getting shooters? Because
Yes.
I'm
Shooters,
not
You're
talking
bringing
about
up
that's the
Ryan
Ryan Dunn pick, but
Shut
they
up.
need shooters, bro. They need. Can
they
we
do
all
need
agree with
defense, but not like they don't need multiple point of attack defenders. Like Peyton Watson's great.
Exactly.
They need like players that can contribute more than just defense. Like
that? Right.
like not Matisse Thybulle, for example. But no, they need like KCP's a free agent most likely if he
They need
declines
to
his player
re-sign him.
option. So yeah, bring him back or
I'd-
get someone at his level because
I'd like to see them
losing
go get
him
like
is
a Royce
big
O'Neal.
deal.
Royce O'Neal is planning on re-signing, or like the Suns like told him that okay, we want you back, and then he.
Oh, I mean, I
probably
wouldn't be
will
surprised,
resign.
but I feel like if Denver's like, "Hey, Royce, here's a couple milli, come play with the better team," it's like,
Yeah,
Yeah, but then I mean, he has a good relation with Kevin Durant. They're pretty good friends, so I.
this
I
is
don't
better
think
than
so.
a relationship with Kevin Durant.
Speaking of Kevin Durant, what are our thoughts
Let's go
on
to-
that sweep?
They're cooked.
somebody's got to go.
They're cooked.
So-
Phoenix is
so-
screwed over.
Somebody's
my
got to
opinion.
go.
Dude,
Matt
in
Ishbia
my-
is the worst owner ever, and
Oh,
someone's
yeah.
well, besides the old Clippers guy who got banned from the NBA, Sterling.
Oh,
But
Sterling.
besides Donald Sterling. But other than that, Matt Ishbia is the worst owner ever.
Yeah, you
And
shouldn't play GM as an owner. It's never worked
Yeah.
out
Yeah,
in any single sport.
and I think it's worse because like Phoenix genuinely can't really do anything. Nobody's going to trade for Bradley Beal with his contract and his no trade clause. You're not going to trade Devin Booker, and you're not going to trade Kevin Durant. Like, who are you going to trade? Yusuf Nurkic, who I think is actually a free agent.
They're
he might
just
not be. I might be
screwed.
tripping.
I
I
mean,
think he got,
Like, they
they
have
are
nothing.
he got
screwed.
some years. Year or
And then
two.
Matt Ishbia goes to the podium the other day and he's like, we have these first round picks and I'm really glad we have them now. Like, we're gonna focus on winning. We don't care about nobody in 2030. Like, if that's your mindset, you're not gonna win anything. And they're just
hey,
cooked.
I mean,
I'm
I
sorry,
don't know how much
Phoenix.
football we know in here, but the Rams once did it. Again, this is not the Rams because the Rams were organized by a lot better people. Like, keep James Jones in charge. Let him run the show. Matt, or whatever, the owner's got to take just a back seat.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, talking basketball, I think the biggest improvement they ought to make is their interior defense. Because Yusuf Nurkic is not an interior defender. Drew Eubanks is not an interior defender.
He's
I know
like
you guys had
6'9".
Eubanks for like a season and a half on the Spurs, right?
He's
Yeah,
good
well,
for like
on, dude.
he's good for like one really high energy block.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah,
it.
one
Yeah.
higher energy block or like a poster dunk. Like that's
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really it. That's all
what
they
it
do.
is.
But I think you had to figure out a way to improve the interior defense because you're never going to improve your perimeter defense when Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are on the team. Those guys can't do it, right? But that's okay. You have them there to score 30 points a game each. What you need to do is find a guy who's going to be a defensive stopper. I don't know how much money they have. I know it's not a lot, but this
They're
is
in
a
the
draft.
apron.
This is they're a second apron team.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
think
they're
they can like,
gone,
sign
man.
anyone.
Oh, they're
They-
gone.
it's
It's
minimum
also
Who's he
Grayson
gonna trade
Allen's
for Yusuf?
contract.
Yeah.
They're gone. They have nothing.
Nope. No
Because like all the
chance at
centers
like
on the off,
an
all the
actual
centers
rebuild.
on the market this year, the only two good ones are Hartenstein and Claxton, right? Everybody else is
Yep.
a backup basically. Valanciunas is
Yeah.
more or less like glorified backup now, at this point in his career.
Or
The
what
one
if
thing-
they trade like Grayson Allen, like do a signing trade Grayson Allen and one of their 7th grade first rounders for I don't know Claxton or something, Claxton or Hardenstein.
The one thing
That's
that
so
went well
tough,
for
'cause
them was
Grayson
that
Allen-
Aiden trade. The one thing that went well for them, because imagine if they were still sitting on Aiden instead of Nurkic and Grayson Allen. I'd much rather have those two than
That's
DeAndre.
No,
true.
yeah, Grayson
That's
Allen
true.
like really came out this year. And honestly,
Mhm.
if I'm Phoenix, I wouldn't want to trade him because he's like the one player that was like a bright spot.
Yeah,
Outside of
like
your
especially
obvious
in the
superstars.
playoffs as well.
And
Yeah.
he's on like a modest contract too, like a normal contract.
Yeah, his
compared to
extension
the
wasn't
other-
crazy.
Yeah, compared to some of the other role players at his level in this league, he's not making like 25 a year like some role players are. Or like
Yeah.
what Gary Trent Jr. was making like 17, 18 a year while putting up career low numbers too. So like, or not this year, he did well this year, but like the past couple of years. So I think they don't want to move off of Grayson, but you might have to if you want to find value out of anybody.
Yeah.
If you could convince somebody with a lot of cap space to take on Nurkic or to take on, fingers crossed, hopefully Bradley Beal, you're going to have to attach somebody like Allen to that trade. They won't do it for just picks.
Yeah.
Speaking of high energy, since we were talking about Drew Eubanks, let's go back across the conferences. Indiana, full of high energy players, plays a high offense. What do we think from their series that they played, the three of them?
Just like New York, I think they need time. Like, they're not an old team. Just re-sign Pascal. With their play this like in the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised if he's more than happy to re-sign. You just need to give him his money, and just let your guys develop. Ben Mathurin was out the whole playoffs, and that showed with their bench production. Jarris Walker will hopefully get minutes next
He
season.
needs to be traded.
He's a good defender, and they need that. I know
Shepard
Manas wants
was-
Jarris Walker to get traded, but
I don't think I've
Free
ever
Jarris,
seen
bro.
Ben Shepherd make a shot while watching a game. Like,
No,
I mean,
Ben Shepherd needs to
played
fall out
well,
of
but-
rotation.
Really?
yes, he
I
needs
thought
to
he played
be
well.
minimum minutes. Like, he provides an impact on defense, which I get, but he's there
he
for
played
the
well
shooting.
up until the Celtics
well.
series.
But
Yeah,
the Celtics
In
This
the
is
series
Celtics
were
really
series,
game
they
good.
shot
plans.
terrible.
But that's when they inserted him into the starting lineup. Like,
Oh yeah, that's true.
he had a
He's
bench
a
role
rookie,
where he
though.
wasn't really a priority. As soon as he entered the starting lineup, he went ice cold. It's not a good look.
But I mean, he is a rookie, so you gotta cut him some slack. Like
Yeah,
No, you're
he
right.
has
First
time,
time in
but just
situation. Like this.
let him develop.
Yeah.
I mean, like with the rest of the team, but they got to cut his minutes a bit. I mean,
Mhm.
give it to they got to get some veterans into that locker room as well in the guard room. Like McConnell was great. I think he's under contract another season, but
Yeah,
keep him if he's not.
He is.
you know,
Yeah, I
Phoenix
think the
actually
biggest-
wants McConnell.
Phoenix wants McConnell for what
Yeah.
assets? Grayson
They've
nothing.
been trying to get him for like the past 2 seasons. Then the Pacers
Yeah.
are like, now
Well-
I mean, it's a good
retiring
target.
here.
Yeah. No, TJ McConnell has been the one constant on these Pistons or these Pacers teams. Him and Miles
Yeah.
Turner, and I think they should stay. I mean, they've set the tone as the leaders at this point, and it's been very successful for now. I think this playoff showed you like what the upper end of their ceiling is. If everything goes right for them, they play an easy first round opponent. They play a weak, injury riddled Knicks team, and then they make it to the conference finals and get demolished, right, by the Celtics,
Yeah.
like most people are. I think for them, you should be game planning at that level. Plan to make the conference finals every single year from now on. It's not realistic, but it shows you where you need to improve, particularly who needs to develop what skills. Whether that's the rookies, Jarris Walker trying to develop more of an offensive game so he can play in the rotation, Ben Shepherd working on overall, like just being more reliable and more consistent on offense. Mathurin, they missed his offensive production, but aside from that, can he develop as an off-ball sort of mover, scorer, gravity threat, and can he develop defensively as well so that he won't get played out of the rotation in the Eastern Conference Finals? I think if you have that goal in mind, it'll help them more clearly develop each player individually.
I think this
Yeah,
is. Or yeah, go. My bad.
So the other thing I'd like to point out though was, games 1, 3, and 4 they were like really close as well, and Indiana actually had a lead in
Yeah.
like
If it
throughout
wasn't for
most of
Rick
the game, until
Carlisle.
like the last 2 minutes. And I feel like if you're that close, the real thing is you just need experience, and that's where they
For
got
sure.
it from. Just run it back.
sure.
Continuity.
Just give it a season. Like if you see some like progression, then obviously you're doing things the right way. But after like next season, if something goes wrong, then you'll know what actually goes wrong, and you could fix that over next offseason. This
Yeah.
offseason, just stay put. You had a good playoff run that I don't think many people even expected.
Yeah.
They just play a fun brand of basketball that I think everyone enjoyed to watch.
The one thing I
Yeah,
really
and
wanna-
honestly,
oh, wait.
oh,
No, you
no,
go.
I was
you
gonna
go.
move on. So if you have something to say,
I was just gonna talk about how Hana mentioned easy first round opponent. I was gonna say I don't think that's gonna be the case for the upcoming years. Like I think the Bucks, this is
Yeah,
probably the
for sure.
worst we're gonna see them in
oh,
like Giannis Dame
100%.
era.
Which is kind of what I was gonna say. I think I don't know if you guys agree, but moving on to Milwaukee, I think they also just need continuity. Like they
Health.
got hit with the injury bug literally
Mhm.
right at the end of the season, and then Dame did really good in game 1 and they won, and then he went down in like game 3, like, and Chris Middleton played well and he tried to do heroics with like his game tire to go to overtime, and it wasn't enough. Like if Dame and Giannis were healthy the whole series, we know that they probably would have won that series.
Mhm.
So for me, I think it's just you draft well with pick 23, and you maybe do a little, I don't know, like free agency minimum work to see if you can get somebody good. Hopefully you don't get injured, because that's what happened last year too. Giannis got hurt against Boston.
No, it was
and then-
Miami.
Oh, it was Miami. He got
Yeah.
hurt against Miami, and they've just been getting really unlucky with the injuries since their championship.
I think the most important part is they need to get a backup point guard. Like,
That's why I gave him Carlton Carrington. Everybody watch the mock draft. Go do that.
I
Better
was
than
gonna say
Patrick
that
Beverly
wasn't a bad
for
thing.
sure.
No, come on, man. You need somebody who can consistently deliver on the offensive side of the floor. They have the defense. They will always have the defense as long as you have Giannis, Bobby, and Brooke. You need somebody who can deliver consistent offensive game, like structured game planning.
Ooh, they should go get Kyle Lowry.
That would be an
That's a good
interesting
idea.
one. I
Lowry's
like
good.
it.
I
That's a
like
good idea.
Kyle Lowry there.
More
That's a
offensive
good idea.
Beverly
His son.
and a similar defense, not that dog style, but
He's the hustle style. Like he'll throw
Yeah.
his body on the floor
Exactly.
to get a defensive stop. Like
Now I don't know how much he's got left in the tank, but if you can convince him to play at like what 75% of what we're used to getting out of him, I think that's good enough. As long as you have Dame there still, you just need somebody. One of the Jones brothers would be amazing for them.
too expensive.
Yes.
They're not going to be able to afford that.
That's fair. That's a good call. But yeah, I think it's a very simple offseason for these guys. Rehab, get healthy, find yourself a backup point guard.
Yep.
The
And
last
then-
Eastern Conference team we haven't talked about is Miami, correct?
Well,
Well,
Boston and
we
Miami.
have Boston, we have the
Boston again,
final
no comment. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
honestly,
tough.
even if we had to talk about Boston going forward, like I don't have notes. Like we're gonna break down the finals,
Yeah.
but they're a great team. I can't really
Mhm.
say anything.
Miami, though.
I have a lot to say about
Miami
Miami.
needs to draft well, and I'm not mad if they get rid of Jimmy Butler. I'm not gonna lie.
This was just not their year. I mean, they had a nice run the past couple of years, making a couple finals appearances, but Jimmy's injury, not the right supporting cast. I mean, you're asking a lot out of those dudes to step up, and I will say, Hero had a couple good games. Jaime Jaquez stepped up, but it wasn't really
They
their
had
year at all.
a great last offseason, and then they ruined it by bringing in Terry Rozier. I hated that move then. I hate
didn't
it
hate
now.
them.
They lost. I don't
They-
think they
they
had a
didn't
good
give up
offseason.
much.
They lost Struce
Gabe
and they also lost
Vincent and
Vincent.
Strus.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
can't pay those guys. Like that's guaranteed though. You can't pay those guys. And
Well, yeah,
I would
but-
say I would argue we overpaid for Strus. He didn't produce great for us. If you take a look at his shooting numbers, I think he shot 35, 34 from three. Not great numbers, right? Certainly not the numbers he was shooting in the playoffs for Miami. I think
Yeah.
if you're Miami, you got the most that you could out of those guys, and you gave them up because you couldn't afford it. You got in return was the space to develop a guy like Jaime Jaquez, right? And then beyond that, you got more centered on who your main guys are. I don't like that they brought in Rozier. He can't contribute unless he's one of the big three. He won't be ever in Miami. I think if you're Miami, you need to figure out how to build around Bam and Tyler Hero long term.
Yeah.
I like Tyler Hero's offensive game. He plays well on all three levels. I like that versatility alongside a guy like Bam, who is possibly the most offensively versatile big man, not named Nikola Jokic, right? And
Yeah.
so if you have that, try to retool. Maybe move on from Butler. You don't need to keep playing mediocre basketball every year. See what you get in return. But I don't like the Rozier pick or the Rozier trade in the middle of all
I
that.
think it's time to move on from Hero. Because it's been 3 seasons. I feel like he's been the same exact player, no progression. And for someone this young, I feel like you need to get better each and every year. His numbers look the same. His efficiency looks the same. He plays the exact same as he did 3 years ago. Like you could see that on film as well. The other thing is I'm not way too high on Jaime Jaquez. If I'm the Heat, if there's a actual good star that gets made available for trade, I think of
Mitchell.
trading away Kobe Mitchell. I think of trading away Harrell, Jaquez, and whatever picks you have if you have any.
Yo,
for
how
a
do we
star.
feel about like Tyler Hero and picks? I don't know if they would do this, but for like a Mikal Bridges, I know we keep talking about Mikal Bridges, but Mikal could be nice in Miami, especially if they choose to leave
if they
Jimmy.
keep Jimmy, if they move Jimmy, I don't really see that working out. It's like Brooklyn, but a little bit better, just because Bam Adebayo's a consistent 20-point scorer. He's not really anything much more, in my opinion. So it's not like he's going to go up and score 30. I mean, unless Mikal can take on that load, which he hasn't been able to, then I don't see that working.
Honestly, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I don't think Jimmy has like those historic playoff runs in his bag anymore. I don't think we're going to see that again.
I agree.
He's
old. He's getting.
I think the
he's
East is just getting too stacked. I think he's going to be really good.
Here's the thing: the Heat have needed a 4 for a long time. They've had Caleb Martin running the 4, or not Caleb Martin, or it is Caleb Martin.
Yeah.
And then they've had Haywood Highsmith running the 4 times. I don't think those guys are good enough to be 4s on a starting. But yeah, Jovic I feel like is a 3. He plays a lot more like one, because he does do well with the ball in his hands. He can play make a little bit. I did see a report that said Deron Holmes got a draft promise and he canceled all workouts. I'm starting to think, is Miami at 15 the team that gave him the draft promise? Because they've needed a 4 for a long time. And I feel like he's like an all-around type player. A good defender, hustles. He could shoot the 3 ball. I think shot over like 37% on, I think, 3-4 attempts a game. I think he's a perfect fit for them. Ceiling wise, I'm not sure how high he goes, but it's like a Jaime Jaquez type pick. You get a 3-4 year guy that could help you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we have a lot to say about Miami. Yeah, I was going to say, let's move on. We still have 2 teams in the West. That we need to cover in OKC.
We didn't touch on Minnesota, but we could do that later.
Oh, you're right. Okay, let's keep it short, though. New Orleans, Manas, go ahead. Say what you wanted to say.
So this is the offseason you pick between Zion and Ingram. And it might sound surprising. Sure, Ingram needs a contract after one more season, but I would start thinking about trading Zion, because I hate the idea of building around a guy that cannot shoot. He's not a good defender, and only plays inside. He's a good playmaker when he's attacking the rim, but I just don't think that's the type of guy you can build around. Shooting, you need that. You can mention Giannis, he can't shoot, but Giannis is pretty much one of one. He's probably top 5 defender in the league right now. Top 10 if you aren't too big of a fan.
Top 3, and that's being very conservative.
5. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I have him 4th, but yeah, I mean, getting back to the Pelicans, I think Ingram's a perfect second option on a championship team. He's had seasons averaging, I think, over 23, 24 points per game. I think he could do that again. He just needs a better running partner. I don't think Zion is that guy.
I agree.
I want to disagree with
Go
what
ahead.
you're saying, but I can wait until after if you want to make a point, Lucas.
Let's talk more
No,
about
I was
this
just
later
gonna.
on.
I was gonna say this is like a really good topic to talk about when we break it down.
Yeah.
Honestly, I said I agree. I can see both ways, and I'm just
Yeah.
here as a fan to say what I think would be interesting. So them trading Zion would be interesting. But
don't like
as
this
for OKC, I think we tapped on it a little bit when drafting last week. I think they need size, and I think they just need a more complimentary two guard that isn't Josh Giddey. Get him off the
Correct.
team.
Correct.
I like Josh Giddey's skill set. I don't like him as a person, but I don't know. I really just, if y'all agree, just
Do
size
y'all
and a
see
better two.
Case and Wallace starting next season? Like at the
Ooh, I
two
would like
instead
that.
of
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I
I
think
like
He
that.
played so well this
probably
playoffs.
Yeah,
I
and then
really
Played so
like
well
that,
this
actually.
playoffs.
and then
Kason Wallace or Kason Wallace and Lou Dort starting together. That's
like defensively, and Shea was
oppressive.
amazing defensively as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, Tyler Smith though, guy to look out for the Thunder.
I'd like Tyler
6'11"
Smith there. That's a
big
good
guy.
pick.
It's a good option.
Forward.
I think they need to go for someone just a little bit more defensively, like a little more defensively and a little bit
He can
bigger.
play
Tyler Smith,
defense.
6'9".
Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn. You want them to take Ryan Dunn?
He's a wing. He's a wing. I mean, I think they
Hey, I
should
mean,
look for
Jalen
somebody.
Williams is a wing, and he plays.
Like-
Dunn's a forward, I think. He's like 6'9". He's big.
He's 6'7". He's 6'7". I think. I think honestly, if they have the money to do so, I would like to see the Thunder get Isaiah Hartenstein. I would love it.
No.
No, and I'll tell you
Keep
why
him in
right
New
now.
York.
I'll
Keep
tell
him
you
in New
why
York.
right now. It's
no.
because Hartenstein has just the right offensive skill set with his passing game for him to be a perfect complement to two offensively minded guards in Shea and J-Dub. I think that would create so many good looks for a team that shoots the ball as well as Oklahoma, for a team that has as much creation in the starting lineup. I know they have problems off the bench, but in the starting lineup, as much creation as they do in Oklahoma. Adding a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein who can make the read out of the short roll, who can play on the elbow, make the passes out of the post, incredible. I would love that. Obviously, we talked about keeping Isaiah in New York, but if he doesn't, next best option, bring him to Oklahoma. Now,
definitely.
very quickly, Minnesota, what do we think?
I want them to get a point guard off the bench. They need something. Mike Conley, I love Mike Conley, but he's getting old. You got to start looking for a replacement.
Yeah, and then slowly transition maybe Conley to the bench and then start, a guy that you get. If Carrington falls to 27, I think
That
that's
would be
what I'm
nice.
picking. That would be amazing.
It's a good one.
Getting mentored by Conley, who I think is one of the more like pure point guards in this league. It would be amazing for this game too.
The one thing I will say about, I mean, obviously there's the big cat decision, but I doubt we're really going to get into that. We can talk about in the offseason plan. Minnesota
Yeah.
needs more help with. Can you hear me? Sorry, I think I blacked out. All right.
Yeah.
With Minnesota, they need more closing ability. We saw that as a main issue in the Dallas series where they couldn't close out the games. That's why they ended as the runner-up when they could still be going, because every time they had a lead on Dallas in the last 5 minutes, Dallas always found a way to come back. Mainly that may be due to Luka and Kyrie, but Minnesota needs to truly find a way to close out those games, or else it would be a way different series.
They're
I
also
agree.
still gonna have to figure out the offensive hierarchy. We saw a couple possessions in that Dallas series, especially the last game. Karl-Anthony Towns, great game, right? Was taking a shot, wasn't hitting it. Ant in the other corner was like, "Give me the ball, that's my moment," right? They have to figure that out. Ant's young, Cat is still in his prime, right? So they have some time. But going into future playoff runs, you want to know, okay, when it gets into crunch time, just like LeBron and Kyrie, LeBron would be the first, or LeBron and Dwayne Wade. LeBron would be the first one to have the ball. But then he knows, okay, I'm looking for my guy over there on the wing, and he's going to get the ball if I can, right? And they need to figure that out as the 1 and the 2 offensively for that team as fast as they can. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of iso ball, a lot of selfish play that leads to very, very bad decision-making down the stretch.
Okay.
All right. NBA Finals start tonight. That's exciting. You got Dallas, Boston. Personally, I'm a Dallas guy. I don't like Boston, except Derek White. That's the only reason I'm okay with Boston winning, because I like Derek White.
I want Dallas to win. I
want
don't
to
like Boston.
I'm with that. Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
everyone
I
hates
don't want
Boston.
Dallas to win because it's like, Dallas fans are going to tell Spurs fans, oh, yeah, we run Texas now. I'm like,
No,
I
honestly,
get
I
pissed
think
about that.
I think the Spurs and the Rockets have always, like, I think especially with the fans, we've always been like against each other. But at least when you look at like the Spurs and the Mavericks in history, it's always been more of like a respectful
Yeah.
rivalry. Like Dirk always respected
Yeah,
Pop,
no,
and
for
we
sure.
always respected Dirk. So I'm okay with Dallas winning. If it was Houston, I don't, not Houston.
I'd be off social media for like 2 weeks.
They wouldn't shut up
Houston
about
would.
it.
That's like,
No
I
offense
mean,
to Houston fans.
hey, none of you guys, I mean, it's like a weird rivalry since they always beat our ass, but Sixers and Celtics have a rivalry in a way
Please.
where we
Please.
hate each other.
Joel
So,
Embiid himself said it's not a rivalry if they always kick our ass.
I
So
just said that, yeah. No, I'm just saying I hate the Celtics with a passion. So it would
I feel
be
like any team in the
the
East hates
uttermost
the Celtics.
respect for a team that I actually do like in Dallas to knock off the
Yeah.
Celtics.
Mhm.
So I think the biggest question going into that series is who's going to be guarding each other's stars. I think it's pretty safe to say like PJ Washington probably takes the Tatum assignment, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Monis, you're on mute.
Yeah, you're.
That's why we don't do that, man. This ain't a
Well,
Zoom call.
The trash truck was coming by, so I just muted myself.
Okay.
Yeah,
You were
but,
saying?
I would probably have Derrick Jones Jr. on Tatum and then have PJ on
You need him on Brown. You need him on Brown.
Nah.
Size.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, here's the thing with Jones. He's more athletic. I feel like he's probably, better, suited to guard Tatum. Because if you see PJ's movement, it's a bit slower than Tatum. So I feel like the thing with that is if Tatum gets like blow-bys very easily, that's going to hurt the Mavericks a lot.
Yeah, and I think this comes into play like with coaching because I think Jason Kidd has done a better coaching job than Joe Mazzulla. I think Kidd has had to deal with a little bit more adversity this playoff run, so I don't think he's gonna like stick PJ Washington on Tatum full time. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them alternate a little bit to see what works better. And ultimately, I think that's kind of why I lean Dallas. I think Jason Kidd is gonna outcoach Mazzulla. No offense to Joe
Yeah, I
Mazzulla.
agree.
Well, wait, hold on. On the coaching thing, because I was watching the LeBron and JJ's pod the other day, and JJ Redick keeps talking about how great of a coach Joe Mazzulla is. I think it's a different coaching style. We see this playoffs, Dallas has found a way to buy in, top to bottom, every single player, whether it's hustle, whether it's defense, whether it's getting to your spots on offense. Next man up mentality. Derrick Jones Jr. minimum contract, next man up. PJ Washington, his entire career in Charlotte, next man up, right? That sort of mentality. And that comes from a coach who's strong and decisive like Kidd, who makes every single call for the team, and they listen to it, they follow in. But flip side, Joe Mazzulla, you see they run a lot of iso ball. It works because they're so talented, right? I think Joe Mazzulla is more the coach that prefers to allow his players to do what they want when it's not that big of a deal. And in the end, Joe Mazzulla is a very good coach in the clutch, in my opinion. He makes a lot of great decisions when those decisions have to be made. Other than that, he won't really take much of a stand. He'll let the guys do what they want because they're all high IQ, very good players, right? So I think you can't just say, in my opinion, Jason Kidd is going to outcoach because it's two different styles. In the end, we're going to get a lot of clutch games. Do you get more out of your clutch coach in Mazzulla or do you get more out of your clutch players in Luka Kyrie? That's where you have to make the decision, in my opinion. Is it a clutch system like the Celtics? We see that they continuously beat up on teams in the fourth quarter. Whether that's the Cavs, we were like within 5 points at some times, midway through the fourth, we lose the game by 20 because they're just that good in the end of a game. The Pacers series, they were down multiple times. They made the right reads, the right decisions,
Right.
to get to that win, right? Versus a guy like Luka, who when he locks in, you can't stop him. Like he's done all sorts of ridiculous stuff with the ball in the last 30 seconds of the game. Kyrie as well. I think it's not as simple as saying better coach wins the game because it's a different system.
To that point, though, I think it's like, the Cavs series. Let's be honest, the Cavs shouldn't have ever had a lead or been close in the fourth quarter. No offense, Han. But in that Pacers series, the Boston Celtics would play down to their competition up until the fourth quarter, and like Manas was saying earlier, they could have easily had that series 3-1 because of how close those games were. And a lot of those losses came at the hands of Rick Carlisle not doing the right things, not calling the timeout at the right time, making these mistakes. Obviously, the player's execution also fumbled. And I think the Dallas Mavericks is harder than any coach or any adjustment that they've had to play so far in the playoffs. Like, Jason Kidd is more than willing to make the right play in the last 2 minutes, and Luka's not going to make a mistake in the last 2 minutes. Like, so for me, it's like if Dallas has this lead going into the fourth quarter, let's say they're up 7 or 8 points, I don't think Dallas is going to let that go so easily. Like, I think it's maybe like a 25% chance Boston would be able to make up that deficit in the last like 5 minutes of the game.
In the battle of these clutch teams, I mean, because both of them, as we've said, are very good in this fourth quarter scenario. I mean, how much will the return of Kristaps Porzingis affect that?
It's going to mean a lot. It's going to mean a lot.
Because it strengthens, their bench. Now, Horford's off the bench. You have a shooting big off the bench instead of, Luke Cornett or Xavier Tillman. So you're having 5 out pretty much at all times.
Yeah, and it makes...
I would hope you could minimize Horford's offensive production as much as possible, or volume as much as possible. I remember watching the Cavs series. I was happy every time he got the ball because he was missing 95% of his shots, mostly wide open threes, and he was missing most of them. Right, he played really poorly up until the last game, and I think Game 5 of the Cavs series, that is. I think if you are Joe Mazzulla, knowing you have Kristaps back, you're going to try to run him as hard as you can immediately, because that's going to give you that's the only chance to get Gafford, Lively, the two paint protectors, out of the paint, out of their comfort zone, right? Because Kristaps is a much more consistent shooter than Al Horford is. You get him in the corner above the break, give him those open looks, force the bigs to step out. All of a sudden, that's a ball game. I think with him coming back, Al Horford should be relegated to at most 15 minutes, no more.
No, yeah, I agree completely. I think for Boston, that is what you're going to have to do if you want to win this series. You need to pull Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford out of the paint, because we saw Jason Tatum get really aggressive going to the basket in that Indiana series, and he was playing phenomenal because they were able to kind of clear that space for him. And if you can get Derek Lively and Gafford away from the rim and kind of ease that pressure off of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you need to be attacking that 24/7 if you're Boston. And so it's going to have... Go ahead.
Hold on. Oh, okay. So the thing with, them doing this is that the Mavs can put PJ at the 5. And it's not going to, be too big of a deal, because Kristaps is not an inside or post player. So you're not going to have to worry about that too much. You're not going to have to worry about, tall guy coming in crashing boards. Like, PJ could be at the 5. You got Jones at the 4 guarding Tatum, and then you got probably Josh Green. I think is a pretty good defender, and if he can knock down the shots, then I think it'll be a great help to the Mavericks, because I feel like bench production is what will kind of dictate this entire series.
Right, but I think that's where it gets dicey, because if you're putting Washington on KP, let's say KP doesn't get aggressive on the inside, cool, he's able to hold it at the 3. You have nobody to keep Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in check at the rim. You can't have PJ Washington rotate down, because he's not gonna stop them. They're either gonna get fouled or they're gonna finish over him. Maxey
Kleber's a guy that can play that small ball 5. He's healthy again. He came back, I think, in Game 4. So
yeah. Game 4. Game 4.
I was honestly thinking if you want to, go ahead.
I have faith in Jason Kidd, because he's a defensive-minded coach. He'll make the adjustments that he needs to.
Oh, no, agreed.
If there's a problem, he'll make it clear and tell the team, okay, we have to fix this, or else we're gonna lose.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think if you have the ability to play Maxey small ball, that forces Joe to consolidate his offense into a new look as well. Because if you can play the small ball and guard the 5 effectively, and then get your perimeter stoppers out as well at the 4, the 3, and the 2. I think for Boston, that makes it much harder for them to play their iso ball style, because that's what they like. They like to alternate Jays coming down the floor with the ball and everyone else spreading 5 out. I think if you can get them to go away from that, force them to play slightly more structured, just to get open looks, that's best. Because iso one-on-one, one of the two is going to go insane, in my opinion, because we saw that against every other team. It's really hard to find the right tools to stop those guys in an ISO one-on-one situation if you have shooting all around them, So I would think you get a lot of Maxi Cleaver, a lot of PJ Washington, very little Daniel Gafford, very little Derek Lively, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that
Honestly,
also
kind of
stops.
go ahead.
It also stops or getting Gafford and Lively off the floor stops Dallas from the pick and roll lobs, which that's a big part of their offense.
Yep.
That's a
And
good point.
Yeah.
if they're
Honest-
played off the floor, it's gonna be a disaster for Dallas.
Yeah, I would argue that if anything, you probably want to force Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown into isolation possessions. You want to force them into I want to say ineffective, but that's not the right inefficient shots. There you go. Because I mean, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can hit step back mid range shots or step back threes. They can, but that's a shot you have to live with if you're Dallas. Like you would rather them do that than them play structured and swing to an open 3-point shooter. Because the truth is, they don't have any
Correct.
bad 3-point shooters. The most you can do if you're Dallas is bank on Drew Holiday having a bad game, like he does sometimes in the playoffs. So I think forcing them into those tough shots is probably the best move if you're Dallas.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
I'm
agree.
not big on Dallas's perimeter, like point of attack defense. I'm not huge on it. Um, I think they're better as a team defense than as an individual defense. And I really want to see what Jason Kidd comes up with tonight. Just because
It'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be. If you're watching this, you guys feel free to take notes on what we're saying, and then look at the game afterwards and be like, were we right or not? I'll be looking at it afterwards as well because
Actually, speaking of that, do you? I mean, I probably have Derek White on Luca if I'm Joe Mazzulla.
oh
Yeah.
Do y'all think Derek White or Drew? I'm probably leaning
Derek
towards
White.
Derek for
I
height.
I
Yeah,
like
right.
Drew on Kyrie better, so I think
size,
Drew White on Lucas.
size.
I mean,
I agree.
did you guys see Drew Holiday? Like the reporter asked him, they're like, "What's the best method for you to stop Kyrie Irving?" He was just like, "Pray."
Right, I've seen that. I've seen
that
that.
doesn't give you a lot of confidence.
I've
I'm
known
Joe
that.
Mazzulla.
I think Drew has not. I wouldn't say fallen off, but his defensive skill set has changed as time goes on. He used to be one of those like nobody can get past you guys, right? Now he relies more on his upper body and core strength to sort of like get you. Like we saw the game sealing block against Indiana. He wasn't in front. Who did he get it? He took it from Nemhard, right? He wasn't in front of Nemhard, but he hit him. Like he took the full drive into his chest, and that stopped Nemhard completely. And he just kind of like fell over because Nemhard is a small guard, and then Drew Holiday is 6'4" and built like a linebacker, right? So I think his style of defense has slightly changed over the years
Yeah.
as he's gotten older and slightly less mobile and more injured. I don't know how well he holds up against Kyrie, but I also know he's your best bet in the team, like considering the team scheme. So I know Kyrie as a whole has been known to have bad games against Boston overall, just because there's such a team defense. And I would love to see the two of them go one-on-one against each other. Kyrie
Yeah.
and Drew. I feel like that'd be pretty cool.
Anybody? Anything else? I'm thinking. I think it will be fun to see what Jason Kidd does with lineups because I think
I
throughout the
agree.
Western Conference, like you could see him trying different things. Like you would see Dante Exum play for a little bit, and I think in the Minnesota series, for the most part, he was kind of like played out of the lineup, and they replaced him with Jaden Hardy because he was able to do a little bit more on-ball creation. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Jason Kidd does. Like Tim Hardaway Jr. has been basically played out of the rotation, but
Yeah.
against Boston, like if he can have a heater series like we've seen him done, I think that could also be really big. So I guess it kind of depends on what you want. Do you want like potential shot chucking from Tim Hardaway Jr.? Do you want defensive minded player in Dante Exum, or do you want like somebody who can really do something with the ball, which is Jaden Hardy? I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what Jason
Yeah.
Kidd experiments
Well, yeah.
with, especially in game
And
one. Because I mean,
they'll have tools too,
Yeah.
right? If game one, it's halftime, you're not shooting as well. You put Tim Hardaway in like a couple minutes in the second half. If then you're like, okay, we need a little bit more shot creation when one of Luka or Kyrie is not on the floor, you get Jaden Hardy, and like they have the
Yep.
tools and depth to make any adjustments, and that's why I have them winning the series.
I agree. I think if you take a look at Boston, you know every single game who the 8 guys are going to be that hit the floor. You can't afford to put Luke Cornett on the ground. You can't afford to put Sam Hauser on the ground, pretty much.
Wait, Sam
Like, those-
Hauser is
I
that?
think Sam-
I think he's
Hauser
going to
will
play
play.
better.
Hauser's going to
He
be
will
playing,
play.
yeah.
Yeah.
He'll
No,
get
but
I
like
think, like,
15 something
Gen,
minutes.
like big minutes, no. It's things that you can't really afford to give these guys, and the tools they offer you, like who does Boston have coming off the bench that could theoretically play a Dante Exum role, or could theoretically play, you know,
I mean,
spot
if you want to
minutes
say
in the-
Peyton Pritchard,
I
Peyton
do
Pritchard
think he's
can't
going to
guard a
play
brick wall.
pretty well this series. I mean, I just think he'll come out. I mean, off the bench, they've been having some struggles, I will say, especially Hauser.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
Pritchard's going to take like a step up this series. I think he's going to play better.
No, yeah, I
shoot
think-
more
I
efficiently.
think
oh, you
Dallas has-
might see some O'Shea Brissett.
I doubt it now
mean,
with Porzingis.
He gives
back.
them. If you need, like, if Sam Hauser's not playing well, O'Shea Brissett is a better defender than Sam Hauser.
That's what I was going to say.
And
Yeah, but
so
like
if you want that,
the difference between Sam Hauser and O'Shea Brissett on defense is significantly smaller than the
then the
difference
offense.
between
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
Well, the difference between a guy like, I don't know, who's a rotation like Tim Hardaway and Dante Exum. You know, they have a lot more specialists. Is the point I'm trying to make? I think that's probably the best they can do.
So wait,
I have Dallas winning this in 7.
okay.
Personally.
I was
too.
going to
I
ask.
have
Dallas
I was going to
winning
ask
by
everyone's
6.
predictions. Yeah.
Dallas in 6, Monas.
Dallas in 6. Yep. Close it out. Close it out at home. I think that's the best way to go.
I think
Noah.
I think it's going to be. I think in the end, it might end up being Boston. I think Game 7. I think it's going to go to 7 games. I think Game 7 is going to be a close one. I think it's going to be pretty much a home series, but maybe Dallas gets one in Boston. I think it'll be Dallas in 7. Though I'm going to say that for the sake of this prediction. Dallas in
Okay,
7.
so
They go
we
into
all have
TD Garden and
Dallas.
take it back.
We all have Dallas. Myself, Lucas, Noah have it in 7. Monas, you have it in 6.
Correct.
All right.
I
Well,
mean, depth is
we-
a swing factor here. Like I'll
we're gonna
say
watch
it
Game
now
1
and
tonight.
say it again.
If you're watching this podcast, it'll probably be
Up by the day Game 2 comes out, because if we post on Saturday, that's Game 2.
Game 2 Saturday night.
Game
Correct?
2
Yeah.
Sunday.
So Game 2 Sunday.
Into Sunday night. Yes.
Oh, then we.
I thought it was
you
Saturday.
definitely-
Because in the finals they usually have like 2 to 3 days in between.
I didn't know that.
It is Sunday, and then Game 3 is Wednesday.
Okay, well, if
Yep.
you're watching
Yeah.
this podcast, it's definitely going to be before Game 2 comes out. So our predictions won't have too much time to sit yet. But let us know down below what you think about our thoughts, particularly after Game 1. You know, I'm sure there's going to be some scheme that we haven't predicted, we haven't seen coming, particularly from these two very good coaches. I'd be more than happy to see where I'm wrong personally. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great, fun series overall. 2 talented teams. I think everyone's gonna enjoy watching this one.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
agree.
Better than
Do-
last year's 1 versus 8 seed.
Yeah, that
Four
one was
seed.
tough. Do we want to do the game? What do y'all
Let's do the
thought?
Yeah,
game.
let's do it.
Let's
do
do
the
it.
game.
Make
All
it
right.
quick, but let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do the game.
All right. So for everybody watching, we're gonna be doing today's crossover grid. If you guys don't know how crossover grid works, there are these categories in a grid that you have to name a player that fits those. And if you name a more niche player, you get a higher rating, like a higher rarity score, and you can compare your score with everybody else that has done it. So I'm gonna be hosting it, and Manas, Noah, and Han are gonna be seeing if they can get a good score and see how much better they do than everybody else. All
We're going to
right.
be doing a lot of these over the summer in the dog days of the off season. So get ready for the ride. Get yourself accustomed to seeing us do these games because there's going to be so many of them coming out this summer.
All right. Number 1, we need somebody that played for the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Celtics in there.
Trying to think of something a little rare. I mean,
Yeah,
I think I
my
have
God.
one that's a little harder.
Well, I have. Yeah, I mean, there's one.
like there's
that's,
common
right
ones
on
like
top of my
Jason
head.
Terry, but
I mean,
Kyrie.
obviously Kyrie is so easy. You know, that's free. But like,
Yeah.
do we want KP is also free? But do we want to do that?
Yeah.
You know, like, do we want to put in Jason Terry for now? Actually, wait. We can hold on because we don't have to. We can talk about it, but we don't have to enter them in yet.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we hold? We have a couple answers. We can hold on to them for now. Give us number 2, Lucas.
All right. Dallas Mavericks and a teammate with Jason Kidd.
well, I mean, obviously,
Ooh, I have a
Dirk,
good one.
but like, Who
That's
else?
like
Was Vince Carter on a Dallas team with Jason Kidd?
well, he doesn't have to be on a Dallas team with Jason Kidd.
I
He
don't
could
think
be a
so.
team with
Ah.
Jason Kidd at some point, right?
I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay.
See, my mind instantly went to Tyson Chandler because I think he was on that Knicks team when Jason Kidd was there.
Tyson Chandler played for the Knicks for a while. So,
Right, and Jason Kidd had like 1 or 2 seasons in New York.
Yeah.
Do you
Chandler
guys want to try that?
We can try it.
I'm gonna put. There's an unlimited guess mode, so we can see. Tyson Chandler has a 10% rarity score.
Not bad. I
we
mean,
can do better than that. We can do
Yeah.
better than that.
Decent, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's something.
Let's try to keep everything in the single digits, yeah?
let's see what we can do. I mean,
All right,
I
so-
think these are going to be harder. But
Ooh, my Dallas Boston one's a 5.4.
Who was your Dallas Boston one?
Dallas and Boston.
Jay Crowder.
that's a good one.
That's a great
That's a
one.
good
That's
poll.
a great one. All right, so we already had answers for that one anyway, so it's not like we didn't have a category. But let's just say we got the first 2 already, and let's move on to number
All
3.
right, Dallas and 1 championship or more.
1 or more, or just 1?
1 or more.
Because if
It
it's-
says 1 plus. It
If
says
it's
1 plus.
just 1, the easy answer is
Do
Dirk
they have
Nowitzki,
to win a
but
championship with them?
No, just they have a championship and they played in Dallas.
I bet we use
Michael
Terry for
Finley.
this one. Or
we can
Michael
do something
Finley?
way
Michael
rarer.
Finley won with us, right? Or he won with Dallas?
I think he did.
No, I don't think
he
he did win. Or he has to have won one. I'm pretty sure he won with us 2007. I could be wrong.
I'm trying to think recent champions.
I think, yeah, Michael Finley's definitely won one.
was there anyone on that Toronto Raptors team?
That's where my mind went as well. I don't think so.
Harrison Barnes, definitely, but I don't know. If
Oh, that's a great
Dude.
poll. That's. I mean, come on. We know he won a championship.
yeah.
That's not the problem.
1.6%.
For what?
Oh,
Do it.
yeah.
Let's get it.
All right,
Yes,
next
sir.
How much is
category.
Michael Finley?
Oh, let me check. Let's see.
He's got to be lower. Wait.
All right, let's see.
Michael Finley's 2.8, Manas.
Oh, 2.8.
no
Damn,
way. Okay. Wow.
Okay, next, a Boston Celtics player who played with Paul Pierce.
Boston
Pierce.
Celtics player.
I mean,
Oh,
Ray
obviously
Allen, Rajon
Kevin
Rondo.
Garnett.
Wait,
Yeah,
Shaq, Kendrick Perkins.
my question is, why are these feel too easy? You know, like
Well, it's probably just like a championship grid, kind of.
Well, there is an easy
a
answer,
championship
but
theme
you're
grid.
trying to get the one that's like.
Yeah,
there
you're trying to
are
get
a
the
lot
hard
of easy
ones.
answers. Yeah. Celtics player who played with Paul Pierce. Who was on his retirement tour teams?
Paul Pierce,
DeAndre
he's on the
Jordan,
Clippers.
no.
Yeah, he was on the Clippers, and this was in what 2008.
He was also on the Wizards, too.
Yeah,
But
who played with
Beal
the
and
Wizards?
Wall never have played for the Celtics.
No, neither Beal nor
Those are
Wall.
the two names that come up to my mind when I think of Wizards. Back then.
I don't want to throw the towel in and get an easy answer for this one. Like we theoretically could just put like Ray Allen and get like 50%.
All right. Well, let's
Well,
go to the
like-
next one then. Hold on, we got this. Boston Celtics and has scored 30 or more points in an NBA Finals game.
Well, I'm sure Tatum
Kyrie.
has Jalen Brown. Oh,
Yeah.
Kyrie. Yeah.
Kyrie
Kyrie
definitely has.
Kyrie dropped 41 with us. I knew that. So like
Yeah.
that's an easy one. But Shaquille O'Neal's definitely done it.
Did Drew Holiday ever drop 30 in a finals game?
I would not put my money.
He
on
hasn't
Drew
been in a
Holiday.
Probably
finals,
not.
I don't
He's
think.
Yeah,
Drew
he's
Holiday.
won
One
with
of-
the Bucks, Noah.
What? No.
Never mind.
That's we're
I'm
clipping that. That's
I'm
it.
think-
That's
I'm
good.
thinking
for
New
sure.
Orleans. I'm thinking New Orleans. My bad.
Drew Holiday has never played in the finals. My ass, bro. That's crazy. Kyrie's an easy answer for this one. Give us the next category, Lucas.
All right. Teammates with Jason Kidd and a teammate with Paul Pierce.
Jason Terry. Right?
We already did we do that one?
No, we didn't do Jason Terry. We can do Jason
Okay.
Terry. Let's see.
Jason Terry was an idea for a lot of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a Maverick and Celtic, so
Yeah. And the tiebreaker matchup.
Ooh, 45%.
Yeah.
shit.
Ew.
Let's see if we could think of someone better, but we can move on for now, I guess.
Yeah, next category, number 7.
Paul Pierce and 1 NBA championship.
Oh, well, to Paul Pierce himself, but like anybody else on the 08 team, basically.
Teammates with Paul Pierce who have a
Who
championship.
was the worst player on the
Or
08
more.
team?
I don't
We
know.
could put
Ooh,
Bro,
I got
wait,
one.
Wait, DeAndre
I got one.
Jordan, bro.
Yup, that's exactly what
Yeah.
I was thinking. DeAndre
That's
Jordan.
a good one. That's a good one.
3.5%.
Hey, listen.
Oh
Paul.
yeah. All right, next up,
I
30
forgetting
points
Jordan has a ring. I won't lie.
with Denver. Yep.
Yeah,
30
I
points in a
forget
finals
I was
game.
thinking LA for a second.
30 points in a finals game and teammates with Jason Kidd.
Well, obviously Dirk. I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but we can do better than that.
Vince?
Hmm.
No.
Vince, has Vince ever even made the finals?
No, Vince.
I don't think
Vince
so.
doesn't have
Yeah.
Retired ringless.
Well, that wasn't the question. The question was, has he ever played in the finals? But I don't think he qualifies for that either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Shit. Oh.
Dirk works. I mean, it's an easy
Dirk's
out.
gonna be like
It's our first
80%.
grade. We're gonna get better at this the more we practice. So.
I'm sure there's
Yeah.
people I'm forgetting it right now. Too.
5.7?
That's it.
Oh,
Dirk?
because he's used for other categories. That's why.
Nah, I'm just kidding. 76.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, 30 points in a finals game and 1 championship. That's easy.
Anybody, pretty much. Anybody who's
Kevin
anybody.
Garnett.
Think of a
I'm
weird
trying
one.
to think
though.
of a niche one. Did Siakam ever drop 30 in the finals?
No,
Didn't
that
Fred
was-
VanVleet drop 30?
He did.
I thought he
And
dropped
then-
like 27 or something.
What about Ray Allen? He's got to drop 30 once.
Hakeem
Okay, let's see.
Olajuwon.
I'm going to try Fred VanVleet first.
Fred VanVleet.
He did not.
Oh, damn. So we didn't even complete this one.
Ray Allen.
Well, theoretically we could have, but
Ray Allen.
Ray Allen is 0.46.
Ah, there
Wow.
there we go.
Yo.
There we
Okay,
are
but
sub
we're
1%.
still missing three spots.
Let's
Which
just fill
ones?
them in. I mean, yeah.
Dallas Mavericks teammates with Jason Kidd.
Do we just want to put Dirk in here?
we go. Hey, wait,
Didn't we
you
already
didn't put
do
Michael
We already put-
Finley
we
in
already
for
put
this one
Dirk.
yet.
Oh, where do we put Dirk?
Vince
Dallas
Carter.
Mavericks in one.
Vince Carter.
Vince Carter? I was thinking maybe like Sean Marion.
That's a good
I was
one.
going to say Sean
That
Marion
works.
as well. I met the
Or
guy. His signature's on the hat.
Oh, in the All Star
Steve Nash and Jason Kidd
What year was
weren't
it,
on the same
2021?
team, right?
22 All-Star.
22.
who else is on that
Oh yeah, it's DeJounte Murray was on the team.
I met DeJounte Murray as
So
well.
wait,
He was on the
let's
hat
see,
as well.
You
Sean
met that
Marion.
snake.
Sean Marion's 10%. That's not bad.
That's good.
That's not
That's good.
terrible. That's not
All
terrible.
right, Boston Celtics, Paul Pierce teammate.
Rajon
Paul Pierce
Rondo.
Kinda
teammate on the Celtics or
No,
playing
no,
for
just
the
like they
Celtics
played for the
themselves?
Celtics and they were teammates
Okay.
with Jason with Paul
Scalabrine.
Pierce at one point.
Brian
Scalabrine.
Ooh, I like it.
For
He's
some
gotta
reason, I
be
feel
there.
like a lot of people are gonna put that in.
Please now. Lucas, what's the
5.2.
Not bad.
Hey, that's good.
Okay, and then last but not least, Boston Celtics, 30 points in a finals game.
Tatum, Brown. I mean, maybe
Did Brown
Holiday.
have 30?
Brown's not at 30.
I think Brown had a really bad series.
Should we try Holiday or should we try Kyrie? Unless you guys can think of something.
Kyrie. Kyrie's the safest answer.
I'll just go
Um,
with Holiday because why not?
I mean, it's worth trying, I guess.
I doubt he had 30 with
Nope.
with the Bucks. Yeah,
No,
I was
he
tell-
did
I'm
not.
telling you, man. I know
So
basketball.
Kyrie, I
No,
guess.
Middleton's
Kyrie's the
not.
easy answer. It's going to be like 70%, but it's still the easy answer.
3.2?
For nah,
Stop
you-
Oh,
capping.
people probably
No, no lie.
show the screen. Show the screen.
Oh, hold on, let me open my phone. It's backwards,
Really?
but
That's it. I'm surprised.
Wow.
Or maybe people chose.
People probably
Kyrie
use
for,
it-
like,
people
Dallas.
probably put Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and like
yeah,
Shaq
because
and stuff.
people saw the Dallas Boston first and either put KP or Kyrie for that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
great polls. Man. Scalabrine was a legendary pull from a guy who historically is not good at this game. And you guys know that. But
There we go. And
there we
that's
go.
that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We're gonna enjoy game one tonight. But by the
100%.
time you watch this, I hope you've already enjoyed game one, no matter who you're rooting for. I hope you
Hopefully
enjoy this
we're right.
pod. I hope hopefully we are right, man. I would love to see my takes on kids coaching be correct. I can't wait to watch the rest of the finals. I hope you guys enjoy this pod and our predictions. All right. Peace.
See y'all next week.
Peace out.